It's Matt Chapman, and I'm here with my longtime friend David Chin, who's the Chief HR Officer of Vistra in Hong Kong. Hi, David.
Hey, good morning, Matt. Good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, yeah, good to see you as well, David. We go back about almost 2 decades, which is crazy. But that was when you were at UBS in Switzerland, and then came back to Asia with JP Morgan.
Yeah, and 2 decades ago. Thank you for reminding me. I have to color my hair these days or something. I think that goes back a
No,
while. Yes.
I think you're still showing a lot of youth and vibrancy. So it's been very interesting times that we've been living through. And I guess for you at Vistra, obviously a lot of learnings. What was the initial reaction like when this, crisis broke out?
Mm. So I think when and first of all, nobody expected the crisis, and that no, I think nobody expected the breadth of the severity of the crisis. When things first started evolving, I think everyone felt it was kind of a localized thing, so it would be more an Asian thing, Hong Kong, Singapore, China, and people who didn't have operations or people who were outside of those offices weren't really paying very much attention. It was something somewhere else. But as things morphed along, then obviously, it became much more serious. And I think what happens is in the initial stages, it's very much crisis management. So you're managing day by day, if not hour by hour, as and when things evolved. Where are all your people? Are they safe? Um, did anyone get infected? How do you respond to that? How do you protect your people? It is really crisis management 101. And it is, to be frank, very reactive because it is such a fluid, evolving situation.
Yeah. And so, how did you pull your team together from an HR team perspective, and keep communication on the same plane, and keep workflows and focus tight?
Well, I think, like any other kind of crisis, one of the principles is communicate, communicate, communicate. You always have to over communicate. The communication has two kind of benefits. One is it keeps people informed, but then also in a crisis situation, it's important that people don't feel alone, right? So in communicating, they feel supported. So what we did in each country is we set up what we call an incident management team. So it's a cross-functional team, management, HR, finance, the different kind of groups come together and they meet generally, at least on the initial phases, on a day-to-day basis, monitoring the situation. Then at the regional and global level, we obviously bring people together on calls. One of the big things was, because Vistra is such a diverse organization, spread over all these offices and countries, it was to share learnings and to share best practice, right? Because the virus was going around the world in phases, right? So as Asia was hit first, they were able to respond. And then we could take some of the good lessons that we had out of Asia and share them with our European colleagues, share them with our US colleagues. So it enabled them to come up the curve more quickly and respond in ways that had proven to be effective and worked for us.
Just to digress, what are the dimensions of Vistra? Tell us more about the size and the geographic footprint.
Yeah. So Vistra, we're in, the trust professional services business. So we basically provide accounting, legal, advisory services to clients around the world. And it is around the world. I mean, one of the things that I enjoy very much about Vistra is that we have this huge geographical footprint. We're in nearly 50 countries around the world. We have over 80 offices, which means we have huge diversity of cultures, diversity of types of businesses. It's a very interesting place to work. But it's also very important, and this is a big part of the people agenda, is to making sure people maintain connections, right, and keep connected, right, because we really are fluff have these far-flung outposts all over the world, and you want to make sure that everyone stays connected to the bigger organization and feels part of something bigger than the local office.
So, looking at recent times, I mean, how do you think this will change your workplace of the future? And will that look different in various parts of the world?
Mm. So, I mean, I think, and I think that's the question on a lot of people's minds, right? So now with that, we kind of like past the initial crisis panic mode. Everybody's saying, okay, so what next, right? And I think the first thing to acknowledge is that, having gone through the crisis, um, and having taken the experience and the lessons out of the crisis, it will absolutely be different in the future, right? None of us should pretend that we're going back to the pre COVID-19 world. The world has fundamentally changed. I think the interesting thing for me, when I reflect a bit, and as we're figuring out what we're going to do in the future, is that it's much more than, the issues that we face are much more than just about working from home. How much office space do you provide? What sort of, do you have enough technology? What policies and procedures? The thing, I think the thing we're focusing on is, well, what kind of organization do we want to be? How do we want to provide and accommodate and adapt to, the whole diversity of people's personal situations, right? Because working from home, this whole experience is also, everyone has a different life, and everyone has a different home situation. We recently did a survey, and you can see the spread of the diversity of responses. Some people actually say, "No, I just want to go back to work. I don't want this working from home stuff. It's been a nightmare." Maybe they have three small children at home. They live in an apartment. This, it's a three-generation family. Who knows? Who knows what their personal situations are? And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have people who say, "Hey, this was a great experience. This really worked well for me. I was as productive as ever. I had the flexibility." So the question for an organization is, well, how do you handle all that, right? How do you handle the range and the diversity of needs, and how do you personalize the experience? And I think that's what we're trying to focus on. How do we personalize the experience? How do we personalize engagement? How do we personalize work for our people, rather than just roll out cookie cutter policies and say, okay, everyone gets to spend 1 week, 1 day a week at home or something, right? It isn't about policy. It isn't about real estate. It's about how do we engage, how do we work with, and how do we get the best out of our people.
So that's an extremely complicated but fascinating area, and one of great opportunity as well. So, how do you tackle that going forward? What comes to your mind?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, and I think one of the other things about Vistra as an organization is, we are very much a knowledge-based organization. All of our people are professional people. Many of them have professional qualifications, tertiary education, by and large, which means, they're engaged. They think about things, they analyze things, and I think that our response to it has to be about engaging them, right? So we're at the beginning of the journey. And I think our approach is that, okay, we're going to have to sit down, we're going to have conversations and discussions with people. And we want people also to tell us and be co-owners with us in terms of creating this new world, right? This new environment, this new kind of operating framework, in terms of how we manage work and how we manage people and how we manage our activities, and how we allow people to balance personal needs, professional needs, and create win-win situations for everyone. It is going to be a dialogue and discussion process, and it's going to be a co-creation process, I think.
And that was David Chin, CHRO of Vistra in Hong Kong. Thanks very much, David.
No worries. Thanks very much.